What really makes a fandom toxic? This is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long while. I'm pretty sure most people know what the definition of toxicity means, especially when talking about society. But this video is specifically about the anime and manga community and certain members in the community that call out other fandoms for being toxic. And of course, I'm fully aware that this exists in other forms of media as well as other entertainment. So today, we're going to be talking about what toxicity in anime means, as well as genuinely giving out my opinion on how I feel about the word toxicity being used. So if you like content like this, please like and share your feelings below, whether you agree or disagree, as well as following me on all social media links, as well as subscribing to the channel. So without further ado, let's talk about anime fandoms being toxic. As sad as it is to say, the first thing I think about when people call other fandoms out for being toxic is either 1. Death threats, 2. Irrational thoughts, or 3. Over something so little. Which is, if you ask me, very childish. Again, these are just works of fiction, they do not need to be taken this serious. Because remember, some people took time out of their day to really create a series they thought is really well done and really amazing to follow their own passion, as well as putting in their own thoughts, ideas, perspectives, and feelings to how they see the world. And yes, you can critique a series and point out its issues, its flaws, as well as things you just don't like about it. But harassing, sending hate messages, as well as death threats is just not the way. I just felt like I needed to clear that up first. Now back to my main problem about toxicity. My main problem is how people use the word toxicity without applying context. And most people do it to follow a trend or follow a narrative. One of the most recent examples of this is Attack on Titan. Now from my perspective, I don't remember a lot of people saying that Attack on Titan fans and the fandom itself is toxic until the final season aired and a bunch of people weren't happy with the CGI animation and sent death threats, as well as hate messages to actors and directors, which I can't definitely stress enough is not okay. But this is what my overall point is about calling other fandoms toxic, and it can lead to people being very much misinformed and not understanding the kind of group that it's trying to represent. And yes, there are people in those groups that make it look like it has a bad name or a bad reputation. But from my perspective at least, from watching other forms of fiction as well as other forms of media, this is the distinction that I've come up with certain people. And specifically 5 different categories. And for lack of a better term, you have this group called the Normies, of people who pretty much just watch the series for their own entertainment and don't really care about what's going on, but just getting their own satisfaction. And a lot of them don't really interact that much on social media or go into forums or watch YouTube videos. They pretty much just decide to just watch the series for what it is and just enjoy it. Then the next group we have is the fans. You know, people who pretty much will buy merchandise, go to gatherings, talk to people on social media. They'll take a deeper dive into the story, the characters, the themes and messages, as well as the cast and even art direction, and a lot more. But on to the next group, which is most people's complaints are the stans. As most people know who stans are, there are those who don't. And for those who don't, stans are different from every other group on this list. Stans are fans, but with a lot of irrational thought. They cannot take any form of criticism about their favorite series, as well as other entertainment. As most people know, stans believe that their opinion is superior over everybody else's. And if you critique that series, you're now labeled a hater or someone who just doesn't understand it. So on a real high-key note, just stay away from stans, and or especially do not become one yourself. Yes, it is okay to favor a series much more than others, but acting irrational and hating on people for their own opinion is not the way. For a great example for myself, I believe Dragon Ball is the greatest anime franchise of all time. But I am fully aware that others do not share the same opinion. And that is completely fine if you think other series are better written, have better characters other than Dragon Ball. And to some degree, even myself would admit that there are better written stories and characters other than Dragon Ball. And that is completely fine. No anime, manga, or anything out there is perfect or absolved from criticism, which now leans into my next group, which are the trolls. Now, trolls are a group of people that pretty much like to make everything a joke. It's one of the main reasons why most people can't get into some series. For a couple examples, let's look at some of the things they've said. Dragon Ball is action with no plot, Naruto is just talk no jutsu, and One Piece is just too long. Or Luffy is a Goku 2.0, and what it does does for newcomers getting into anime or manga is it doesn't allow them to explore that series for itself. For a very good example of this, I myself was one of these people. I used to think that One Piece is way too long and uninteresting, and that Bleach fell off after season 3, until I watched and read the series for myself, and I enjoyed pretty much every minute of it. Now, I don't want One Piece to end, even though it's over 1,000 episodes. Now, I'm taking my time with Bleach in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, and that's because I decided myself whether the series will be really good or if it was worth my time or not. And that is basically what trolls like to do. They like to oversimplify something even though it's not necessarily true, and it leads other people to not really like the series for what it is. Now on to the next group, which most people will consider the toxic fans. As someone who has dealt with toxicity, not just on a social media level, but on a social level, they are very different but identical to stans. They're pretty much two sides of the same coin, but have very difference in practice. While stans are more blatant and in your face about their opinion, toxic people are more elusive. And those out there that have dealt with toxic people know one thing, and say it with me, they love to play the victim. They don't like to take responsibility for their own actions. And usually they're the same group of people that would badmouth other people behind their backs. But then they'll turn around and act like they are cool with everything, and act like they didn't do anything wrong and they were always there from the jump. So when I hear from other people saying so-and-so anime's fandom is toxic, I get pretty confused, because not every anime fan in that group is toxic. And there have been others that have called out other people in groups for acting like this, and have even said they're not real fans. So the whole point of this video was to give out a distinction between other anime fans and other groups. And yes, this does apply to other forms of media. To end this off, I'm not criticizing people for calling out other fandoms for being toxic, or say that you're wrong for believing that fandom is toxic. It's just to bring more awareness that there are people in different groups, where some just want to get entertained for the moment, and where some are just heavily invested into the characters in the series, and where some are just trying to make fun of the series, and also where some are just blatantly toxic. Before I go into my last point, there's something I just really want to clear up here. I am not condemning you if you align with any of these groups, or how there's anything wrong with how you choose to enjoy it. There is nothing wrong with you being a normal fan, a huge fan, or maybe to some extent even a troll. It's just for those on the outside looking in to understand the difference and the real meaning behind toxicity. And this last thing I'm going to say is honestly a personal nitpick that I hear some anime fans say a lot. Oh, I know someone, or they are the someone that has watched over 500 plus anime and manga series, so they know what they're talking about. While I do understand where they're going with that topic, it really doesn't mean anything. Just because someone has watched a lot more anime than the average person does not mean that their opinion is more validated. Because again, these are all just opinions. They can be right and they can be wrong. So that pretty much wraps up this video. Please tell me what you think down below, whether you agree or disagree. As always, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And please, follow me on other social media links. Until then, I'll see you around.